Ellie and I spent 25 days in Greece. We rented a car and ran multiple road trips, discovering traditional places like Athens and Santorini. But we also discovered the most out-of-the-world places like Meteora and many hidden gems in the Peloponnese region. We had an amazing time. Plus, we also learned what not to do the next time around. Like how we accidentally booked and paid for hotels on top of an Airbnb we already had, doubling our accommodation costs. We also paid a fortune on a ferry to Santorini. And we're stuck taking cold showers 2 nights in a row. Well, for me at least. Stay tuned because we'll share some tips that we wish we had before discovering this beautiful country. Hey there, I'm Serge from Discovering Destinations, and Ellie and I have been traveling together for almost 2 decades. 30 countries in, we started with a run-and-gun style, discovering places really quickly, to a now more relaxed and slow travel, or also what's called deep travel. So if that's your style, then go ahead and check out our channel and stay tuned for this video. Why Greece? Well, in 2024, I left a very demanding job and transitioned to working 100% with Discovering Destinations for content travel creation, since we had a lot of video footage just laying around. And there were a few reasons why Greece popped up on the grid. First, I was looking for a place in Europe that would give me a break and help me transition into my new role. Then I searched for great deals in Europe, and I found Greece with a great price on a flight, Airbnb, and a car rental. I decided to book 25 nights in Tolo because there was a great deal. And the idea was to go there and work from the apartment and occasionally run some day trips around the region. But once we got to Tolo, our mission quickly changed to how much of Greece can we actually discover in 25 days? Now, here's one of the main questions that people often ask us. 25 days in Greece, was it enough? Yes and no. Bear with me as I explain. On one side, this was enough to get a great overall perspective of Greece, its history and culture. We checked out a few beaches, took in some history, visited archaeological sites, and attractions we had no clue existed, like Monemvasia and Meteora. We saw a lot, but we also moved at a relatively fast pace. And despite that, we could have done even more had we taken our trip to Athens and Santorini and brought it to the beginning or the end of our trip in Greece. And instead of booking 25 nights in Tolo, which really trapped us in that region of Greece, that led us to double booking 10 hotel nights in other regions. Instead, we could have planned to set a set amount of time in various regions, sweeping the area and not having to come back and forth to Tolo. This video's mission is to share the do's and don'ts that we learned throughout this journey. We want to relate the knowledge and lessons that we learned to help you plan anywhere between a short 1-week trip to multiple months. For starters, we understand that most of you probably don't have 25 days that you can just spend in Greece. That said, you can still create a great memorable trip with a 1 or 2 week vacation. Our experience taught us that it's all about how you plan and structure your trip before you get there. Of course, if you have 25 days that you can spend in Greece, you'll have enough time to discover many different regions. In both cases, pre-planning will make a world of a difference. We also created a full and comprehensive playlist on YouTube and showcase all the places that we discovered. Feel free to watch them for inspiration for your trip. Also, stay tuned as I recommend how long to stay in places like Athens and Santorini. At this point, you might be wondering, 25 days in Greece, how much did you actually discover? Well, our trip started off with 25 days in Tolo, and the idea was to roam around this area with various day trips. But once we got to Tolo, we started checking Google Maps and pegged a bunch of different destinations that we wanted to check out. And soon enough, we ventured out of this bubble to see Delphi, Meteora, a 2-hour drive to Athens, then a 6-hour ferry to Santorini. And near the end of our trip, we discovered the Peloponnese region. And we would have gone even further had it not been for the limitations that we set for ourselves. Now, let's spend some time on each individual destination to give you a little bit more information and context. I'd say for most travelers, Athens is going to be the main entry point into the country, especially if you're flying in from a different country. But do stay tuned because we'll cover the other regions that we discovered, including Santorini and the Peloponnese. A car ride from Tolo to Athens is roughly 2 hours, so we booked 2 nights and it gave us 2 full days to spend in this city. We managed to see many sights during this short time and learned valuable lessons, so let's review them. Like most major European cities, you don't need a car to get around Athens. Athens has a metro, and most attractions are walking distance from one to another. Actually, cars are not allowed in certain sections of the city, so having one can actually be a nuisance. Historically, Ellie and I have rented cars when leaving major European cities, like Lisbon and Rome. But on the flip side, if you must discover Athens with a car, like we did, here's a small tip: don't use the parking filter in your hotel search, since this will increase the price dramatically and also push you to the outskirts of the city. Your best bet is to find a hotel in the city center and find an indoor parking garage nearby. We know that because we learned the hard way. We booked a hotel that had available parking, which in the end was just street parking. And once we got there, I kind of felt uneasy about leaving the car on the street for fear of getting a parking ticket. And that's when we decided to park the car inside a nearby hotel, costing us 18 euros per night, bringing our total to 36 euros for 48 hours in a parking garage. In hindsight, we're pretty confident that we could have found something in the city center for that price. You might be wondering, how do I get around Athens once I'm there? In addition to walking and taking the metro, you'll find bikes and e-bike tours, walking tours, and also hop on, hop off, which our friend Andrea used, and it even brought her to the beach. We'll cover it a little bit later, but you can also run excursions and day trips from Athens to places like Corinth, Nafplio, Delphi and Meteora, which my sister actually did. For that, just check Get Your Guide for various activities. We'll leave that link in the video's description and a QR code on screen for you to scan. We stayed there 2 nights, but in case you're still wondering how many nights that you should stay in Athens, consider this. We recommend staying 4 nights minimum, or more if you want to check out all the attractions and archaeological sites. We decided to keep it short because we still had 4 nights ahead of us in Santorini. Plus, we had that Airbnb that we booked 25 nights, so every night was a double booking at this point. Now we'll move on to Santorini, but do stay tuned because we have an important tip about Athens that we'll cover in our hotel section. Stay tuned in this Santorini section because we'll answer various important questions. Let's start with, when do we recommend going to Santorini? And there's a 2-part answer to that. Number 1, we recommend going to Santorini at the beginning or end of the trip. What we ended up doing is booking Santorini in the middle of our stay in Tolo. And that required us to drive to Athens, going to Santorini, and then come back. And for us, that meant we lost a lot of time traveling to and from Athens and Santorini. And the reason we say to go at the beginning or end of the trip goes back to what we covered earlier. Once you arrive in Greece, you'll most likely land in Athens. From there, you can grab a connecting flight to the islands, or a ferry. And that in itself will limit your travel times inside the country. Part 2 to this question is, we decided to go in May. And despite being earlier than the summer rush, places like Iya and Fira were completely filled with tourists. But we were lucky enough to find refuge in neighboring towns like Kamari, Pyrgos, Emporio, and more. We ended up creating 2 travel vlogs for Santorini with all the attractions and places that we discovered. And if you're planning to visit, then go ahead and get some inspiration from our travel vlogs. We ended up meeting amazing locals who worked at a brewery and gave us indications on various places to discover. They even told us where to go to check out the sunset, escaping the busy places like Ia and Fira. Another question that people typically ask is, I've heard that visiting the islands are typically more expensive than the mainland. Well, to get there, we spent $900 on a round-trip ferry ticket for 2 people and a compact car. In hindsight, we found plane tickets in the realm of $100. Knowing ourselves, Ellie and I don't pack light, and we're pretty sure that luggage fees are extra. You can also mix and match to get to the islands. Like our friend Andrea, she took the ferry to go to Mykonos and Santorini and then flew back to Athens. And if you choose that route, just know that there are a bunch of different ways that you can visit Santorini. You have taxis, buses, excursions. You can even rent a scooter or ATVs. And I'm pretty sure I even saw car rentals. Also, you'll find many excursions like private tours, photography tours, wine tasting, which is a pretty big thing on the island. They actually make their own wine. There are tours for sunsets. And there's also a famous catamaran cruise that take you in the hot springs near the volcano. But if you're looking for something smaller and low-key, there's also a very unique boat ride where fishermen take you out on the water and prepare a fresh meal for you. Some of these excursions are offered by hotels, but you can also book them through affiliates like Get Your Guide. And the cool thing about that is you can book it way before your trip, and most excursions have free cancellations in case your plans change. Lastly, how long do we recommend to stay in Santorini? Well, we stayed 4 nights, and despite having 3 full days and filling our days with a bunch of attractions, we feel that 2 or 3 nights would also be sufficient. And with everything I just said, if you're still unsure how long to stay in Santorini, just ask yourselves, how long would satisfy my desire? Now, the fun part, driving in Europe. A lot of people ask me, is it safe to drive in Greece? Personally, after driving around with a small compact Peugeot for 25 days, I can honestly say that it totally is. It may just take a little bit getting used to at first. And with that, I made a full comprehensive vlog covering many do's and don'ts, and I also shared helpful tips that'll help you plan and save ahead of time. Ellie and I loved having a car while discovering Greece, but you can also see a lot without having to rent one. Driving in Europe is a wonderful experience, and we've done it many times. But if you still don't feel safe, or you have a short vacation and you're spending more time in Athens, you might also feel that it's not worth renting one. Also, consider this. You'll still be able to discover various places from Athens and run various day trips and excursions. With the help of Get Your Guide, for example, you can go to places like Corinth, Epidavros, Delphi, Arachova, and Meteora. And there are also buses that take you all the way to Nafplio, which is at the edge of the Peloponnese, and we totally recommend going to this area. And with a car, Ellie and I managed to go deeper into the Peloponnese region, discovering places like Monemvasia, the Greek Mont Saint-Michel, also a shipwreck on a beach near Yithio. We saw Simos Beach in Elefonisos, the Diros Caves near Areopolis, and Limene Beach. And we could have done so much more had we just decided and admitted that we're not just going to work in Tolo, we're going to discover around. We could have seen so much more of the Peloponnese. By the way, it's cheaper than Santorini, and it's even more charming. At this point, you've probably heard the word Peloponnese a few times, and are probably wondering, where the heck is that? And that's okay, because it was the same for us before we fell in love with this beautiful region. It offers incredible archaeological sites like Epidavros, beautiful nature, and charming towns like Nafplio. And the more we discovered in this region, we connected with locals who shared even more amazing places. So here are a few, in our opinion, hidden gems that we discovered in this region. Number 1, Monemvasia. This is a fortress, often referred to as the Mont Saint-Michel of Greece, but in fact it's actually older. So one could argue that this is the original. We fell in love with Monemvasia for its structure, the cobblestones, and the feeling that it gives you once you're inside the fortress. Also, the glimpses of the sea are just magical. After Monemvasia, we ventured down to a place called Elefonisos. A little disoriented at first because we had to grab a ferry to get onto the island. And our mission here was to discover Samos Beach, which I had seen raving reviews on Google Maps. Once on the island, we immediately fell in love with it. So once we sat down for a delicious brunch at Mammy Mam, we met with Curia. After discussing a little, Ellie and I decided that we wanted to stay one night in Elefonisos, but we had a hotel planned in a different region. So Ellie approached Curia and asked her if she could help us out. We called the other hotel, bumped the night to the following one, and decided to stay in Elefonisos. And that allowed us to discover truly beautiful places. Overall, we got to see 2 great beaches on the island, and we would have stayed an extra night. The following night, we headed over to Yithio and had a pleasure discovering this region. We found a shipwreck on a beach. I had my sights set on discovering Vathi Beach, which would have added us extra time on the road. But instead, the hotel staff recommended that we visit Areopolis. That's when we discovered the Diros Caves, Areopolis Village, and also Limene Beach. All of the places I just mentioned are so much more affordable in comparison to Athens and Santorini. We were there in May of 2024, and luckily we were able to book on the fly, which probably isn't the case if you're there during the summer rush, so just something to keep in mind when you travel. Renting a car is kind of a must to visit this region. You can find excursions or tours, but they're going to be way pricier than just renting a car. And if you do end up driving, take care in this particular region because the roads are a little bit different and the locals drive fast. And of course, don't forget to check out some of our vlogs to get some travel inspiration. Before visiting Greece, you may be wondering, hotels, Airbnbs, what do you recommend? We actually booked an Airbnb because we got a great deal. Plus our idea was to stay there a while, so we didn't want to have to go to restaurants every other night, and our little apartment allowed us to prepare food and eat in. But don't rule out hotels, because you can also get some great deals in Tolo and other places. Actually, the only Airbnb that we booked was in Tolo. The rest was all done through Hotels.com, which is a platform that we've been using for over a decade. The reason we use it is that we get a bunch of benefits. For every 10 nights that you book with Hotels.com and you stay, you'll receive a voucher, and the value is calculated as the average of the amount that you spent for the 10 nights. With my previous job, I had accumulated a bunch of these, which I converted and I used to stay in our Santorini trip. In most cases, the voucher can be used to cover almost the entirety of your stay. I think you need to pay the taxes separately. And in our case with Santorini, it allowed us to splurge to get a better hotel at a lower rate. Also, Hotels.com has other advantages. For instance, if you're just getting started, you'll fall into their bronze category, But the more you book with them, you'll easily get to the silver platform and maybe eventually gold, which occasionally helps you with early check-ins and late checkouts. And above all, my personal favorite is that you can actually see the room you're about to rent. And then you can decide whether it's worth spending an extra $50 or $100 a night for a pool or a view or anything else. Oh, and another thing, we recommend that you don't trust the available parking in Athens, because it's probably just street parking. You'll probably be best served leaving your car inside a parking garage for a little peace of mind. Oh, and here's the main tip I hinted about earlier. If you value your comfort and your hot showers, then make sure to check out 24/7 hot water. And I know that sounds weird, but Greece, like other European cities, are sometimes on the old breaker system, which was the case for our rental in Athens. That meant that we needed to activate hot water 30 minutes before usage, and that's for each time we wanted to use hot water. So each time Ellie and I wanted to have a hot shower, we needed to plan 1 hour in advance, minimum. And if you're more people, then I'll let you do the math. Overall, we loved all of our discoveries in Greece. The Peloponnese was a huge game changer. And our road trip to Delphi, Arachova, and Meteora was also a dream. And knowing what we know now, we'd make a few tweaks. For starters, we would have the trip to Santorini and Athens at the beginning or end of the trip. And instead of spending 25 nights in Tolo, which was beautiful, we would do 2 weeks, and then we would move to various regions and spend maybe 5 nights per region. We left wanting more, and that's a good thing, I guess. If we were to go back, we'd go and visit places like Kalamata, Olympus, and also the western part of the Peloponnese like Zakynthos and Cephalonia. Hopefully, our experience and these travel tips can help you create an even greater trip. Bonus number 1. When's the best time to visit? Our trip took place in May, and we loved the weather. We also enjoyed how quiet it was in certain areas. We also got a lot of sun and temperatures between 20 to 25. The downside was how the sand dust particles fly over from the Sahara. For starters, that can lower visibility and prevent you having some great views in neighboring places like Argos, Nafplio, and Corinth. It can present health warnings for people with respiratory conditions. For your information, this phenomenon is said to happen in the spring, but also in the fall. So May was great, but speaking to many locals, they often told us that the best times to visit Greece was in September and even October. Even our friend Andrea, who we helped solo travel to Greece in October of 2024, said she got really great weather. Bonus number 2. Here are some travel platforms that we used before and during our trip to Greece. First, we used Skyscanner to search for flights. And we heard that now they do packages like cars and hotels. For our car, we use Car Rental Europe, and we got an amazing deal on a compact car. Also, check out this freebie from Ellie. The thing I haven't mentioned yet about driving in Greece is the amount of tolls that you may have to pay depending on the region. Ellie found this great site called Guru Tolls, and it allows you to forecast and calculate the approximate fee for tolls for your forecasted trips. And if you already know that you're not going to rent a car while traveling around Greece, but looking for an alternative method of transportation, then feel free to check out busbud.com. It's a platform by Bookings that helps you compare prices for bus tickets for long trips. And it can even help you travel around various cities. Next is hotel.com, which we just mentioned earlier. We used this platform for the 10 hotel nights that we booked. And we also used the discount vouchers when in Santorini. That allowed us to upgrade to a suite. And not only did I use my vouchers in Santorini, the nights that I stayed there counted for a future discount. For excursions, we also used Get Your Guide. We use them to book in advance to make sure that the sites and attractions don't sell out. And the cool thing about this site is that you can even book way in advance, and some excursions allow for free cancellations, in case your plans change. Of course, we used Airbnb for our 25 nights in Tolo, and as for internet connection, we use Holofly, because we love their reliable internet, and it really came in handy with the GPS navigation. So again, why Greece? Well, you've probably discovered by now that it's such a rich and diverse country, starting off with the great mix of food, like our dinner in Toutsoulaki in Arachova. You'll find many castles, temples, mythology, mountains, beaches, and hidden wonders, like our Monemvasia, Shipwreck Beach, Limeni, Diros Caves, and so much more. If you end up visiting Greece and only see Athens and the islands, you're doing yourself a big disservice. And hopefully, this video will help you better plan for your trip. Guys, if you liked this video and you found it helpful, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. And also, be sure to subscribe as we have more destinations and topics that we want to cover. Ciao, Discoverers!